Just gonna move myself to the front. Hi, everybody. I am having myself in here, putting everybody out here. Okay, we'll let people roll in while in the meantime. I always love to just do a little ice-breaking session, but also really asking people where you're from. I'm currently in the gloomy Seattle. It is supposed to be slightly sunnier, but I don't know why today is gloomy. So we love the West Coast. I'm not gonna lie, I still love my little nice, cozy weather. So I'm not going to complain. But Nizar, I think your location is going to be everywhere. You probably want to tell everybody like where the heck you just came from and like where you're
Yeah,
from.
yeah. I guess to give a quick idea, I was in Canada. Then it started to rain and get really cold. I'm from Calgary, and the summer is never really a summer, especially this year. Went to Germany, also very hot, and now I'm in the UK, and it is extremely hot. I'm actually surprised that I'm not like sweating my life out right now.
Yeah.
And after this, we're going to jump to Dubai. So hopefully that's going to be another one.
That is crazy, crazy, crazy times. Guys, every time I check with Nizar, he is never in one spot. He's always jumping around, and like you just have to find him. So, which is even good if you can even find him and book a call with him. So, which is great. But I can see that people are rolling in. I always love to have this little chat where people tell us where you guys are currently at. Just to let us know where you are. But yeah, as we will be rolling in, I just want to give it a quick start so we don't waste time because it is going to be a very short webinar talking about this letter blueprint ebook. So I'm really, really excited. But yeah, I just want to get into it and let's get this one started. So hello everyone who is joining right now and also earlier, welcome to our webinar today. So this is going to be the yes letter, turning your post-purchase funnel into a profit engine. So I am Alicia from Aftersell, your host, and I'm also very thrilled to be joined by Nizar, who is the CEO of SimplyScaled. We want to always say that most brands are actually treating post-purchase post-purchase upsell as like an afterthought process. But what if we actually think of this as like a more profitable funnel? So today we're actually going to be breaking down the exact framework where SimplyScaled or even Nizar himself, he's like the master of it, uses to help brands drive over 200K a month in the back end revenue with margin north of 80%. Now, before we get into that, Nizar, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, I mean, you did already a pretty good job, so I appreciate it. But yeah, my name's Nizar. I'm originally Lebanese, was living in Canada. I run Simply Scaled. We initially were an ad agency. We still do advertising on Facebook, but majority of what we switched to recently has been post-purchase funnels, optimizing post-purchase funnels, and like she said, really take post-purchase funnels seriously for ecom brands because we noticed that like 7, 8, even 9-figure brands are just not doing it enough or not doing it the right way. And when you prioritize it and treat it as a front end offer, if you prioritize it as much as you prioritize your free front end offer and do CRO on the back end, you can actually generate a lot of revenue, but not just revenue, like you're mentioning, profit. The profit margin on the revenue that you can generate post purchase is genuinely massive, and it helps a lot with businesses. So, kind of transitioned from that into that. I used to have my own brands. And yeah, I've been in this space for almost a decade now since I was 15. So it's been a long time in this space. Yeah.
That is crazy. And we're not counting how old you are, don't worry. But
Everybody now is so
now
yeah.
everybody is like, oh, how long is that? Because job shipping is not too long ago, or even it's been a while. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So before we want to start, I just want to do a quick housekeeping note, just so that everyone's aware. We will be taking questions throughout, but then so feel free to actually drop them in the chat. I would prefer we put them in the Q&A so we can put it up on the screen so everybody knows the question. So there will be a dedicated Q&A segment at the end. So Nizar will actually answer them. So feel free to add them in as many as you can. And if you have some of the important ones, that'd be great. The best part is we are trying to focus more BFCM theme because BFCM is coming up and this is the most important piece. So let's actually get into it. And I'm super excited to start the question. So Nizar, let's start with the big one, right? What made you realize even the massive brand were treating post-purchase like a band-aid instead of a funnel?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of was in a privileged situation where I already had access to a lot of these massive brands because of our ad agency. So it was kind of a thing where I used to set it up for my own stores back in the day, but I never used to think about it too much. Very similar to them. And I would go ask a lot of them, are you guys running post-purchase funnels? And a lot of them would say like, yeah, a little bit, but it's not really a priority and stuff like that. But what really happened, to be honest, is we were actually running ads for a client and things were not going as smooth as we wanted them to initially. So my goal was to try to, generate them some sort of ROI so that they would stay working with us. This was kind of the initial, it was a selfish reason that I did this. So then I went and I launched the post-purchase funnel for them. And that post-purchase funnel ended up generating them, I think that first month, about 62-ish thousand dollars in profit. So then obviously, whatever they were paying us became extremely ROI positive, and then they stayed. And that's kind of where I was like, well, these people were making like 5K a month from this beforehand, or maybe even 10K a month, and that they just took home $62,000. Let me see if I can do this again. So I tried it with some of these other bigger brands that I was working with. And again, some of them already had funnels, some of them didn't. A lot of people that might be watching this might think I already have funnels, they're already getting a decent RPV, I can't do better. But again, it's the idea of continuous testing as if it's CRO on the front end. Like you don't run your BFCM ads to a normal landing page, you run them to a BFCM landing page. Why should they not go through a BFCM funnel? Mother's Day, Memorial Day, all that kind of stuff. So I started to kind of do it for more of our clients. I did it for all the clients that we were working with on the ad side, and it pretty much crushed it. I mean, almost for everybody. I think one of them it didn't, but they were very PayPal heavy. And that was it. Like from that point forward, I was like, let me see if I can, get people to pay for this. And again, we started to onboard a ton of brands that we were helping push this. We have now like, I think 20 case studies and like testimonials and stuff. Like we've really blown it up to the point where now it's like our main business.
Yeah, which is I can kind of admit that we have kind of gone through and see that because I work with Nizar very closely. And then I think in the beginning was a lot about like, all right, I'm gonna install Aftersell for this client ABC. And a lot of time it's really about focusing on how to build more for them. And I think like you were almost digesting into the signs of like what else can I do more for them. And I think like aside from what was already recommended in inside Aftersell or what sort of like funnels that we provided or even some sort of like standard, just to let you guys know how to set it up, I think these are really went and almost like operate to the point that he's healing to the point that not every brand makes sense on a certain funnel, but I think you kind of went into like, all right, this vertical, I think this funnel would make more sense for you, maybe by adding like membership or like some little images and things like that. You really utilizes it. And the best part is Nizar really has been giving us a lot of feedback and we've been trying to build as much as we can. So that way that even if he were to do it with limited resources on like the features, he still kind of made it work. And we're always like surprised and shocked by how much we can do with just that features that we currently have. So it's really more of like being creative. So that's one thing that I liked about it. And I'm like, this man is traveling all the time, but yet his brain is like thinking like 1 million things. So which is great. I love that. I do want to add that in this ebook, guys, we will be sharing you for the first hand so that after this like webinar is on, you guys will get the first hand because we don't launch it till then. So Nizar, I know in the ebook, you actually say that most brands are kind of chasing conversion rate when they kind of like should be chasing RPV and PPV. I do agree with that because I always think about like, oh, because brand ABC wants conversion rate and what is the conversion rate when we see them in post-purchase upsell. But I think you went with the RPV and also even or the PPV. So why is that shift so critical? And I guess like what happens when they ignore it?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, again, they go after the shiny metric that they know of, which is conversion rate. And it's not I'm not necessarily saying they don't have to focus on that, but I think there is a very, strong balance that has to be there between conversion rate and the AOV of the offer that you're putting in there, which eventually creates your RPV. Now, I mean, the easiest way to kind of look at it is post-purchase in my eyes and in most of the people we work with is a profit engine. It's not a revenue engine. So the goal isn't to maximize revenue, it's to maximize profit. And to do that, conversion rate isn't always going to be the priority because RPV, and most specifically what you're talking about, PPV, is going to be what's really important because that's going to be the metric that tells you how well your profit engine is running, not how well your revenue engine is running or how well your page is converting. So I mean, it's very easy to do the math. Like if you were to take 1,000 visits and have a $50 offer and 10% of the people take it, that's like what, 1,000, that's 100 people times 50, that's, $5,000. Divided by the 1,000, that's $5 RPV, right? Versus if you were to instead lower the price to increase the conversion rate to like $20, then those 1,000 people, let's say double convert, so 20%, so 200 people buy it for 20, that's $4,000 divided by 1,000, that's $4 RPV. So not only is your RPV going to be lower, even if the conversion rate doubled, also your profit is going to be lower because your COGS are still the same. So in reality, it actually makes way more sense to have the higher price and the lower conversion rate than to have the lower price and the higher conversion rate. Now, again, there are ways where that will make sense, like especially depending on the funnel that you're running. Like we have a lot of different creative ways that we do stuff. And like sometimes we will purposely make one thing convert less to make another thing convert more. Think of it as like making your upsell one so horrible that everybody takes downsell one. And the people that do take upsell one become like absolutely 10 to 15 times the AOV going down the funnel. So that's a strategy where we want the conversion rate of upsell one to be like 2%, because we only want those 2% to see these massively expensive offers that they will take. And then the 90%, almost 60% of them say yes to the downsell because of how bad the upsell was, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I think they focus too much on conversion rate and they don't think too much about the actual profit generated, because that's what it should be for.
I guess like for this, like, do you have an average RPV or PPV that you think would make sense for people to like be looking out for? Of course, this is again based on verticals, right? It's not all verticals are the same, but like, do you have like a gauge average number for that?
Yeah, the easiest way to kind of do this is for your upsell one, you want to try to get the RPV as close as possible, if not higher than 10% of your AOV. So AOV, regardless of industry, is going to be a metric that anybody's tracking. So at least like if you have $100 AOV, you should try to get to a $10 RPV, and specifically on that first upsell. And again, going down the funnel, again, this is very unique to our situation and our funnels, but our funnels go up in RPV and conversion rate down the funnel versus everybody else's funnels actually the opposite. The highest converting things at the top, and then everything else doesn't do that well. So for us, like we want the RPV and the conversion rate to be going up as you go through the funnel from upsell one, upsell two, upsell three. And then same thing with the downsell. Like if they say no to the upsell, we ideally want to get the downsell to relatively the same, if not, less, a little bit less RPV as the upsell, because then that means that we're basically making as much money as possible on both. Now for PPV, I don't actually have a percentage because again, everybody's COGS are different, but for the RPV, at least like you should aim for like at least a 10% on the first upsell, which usually will be around like the 15 to 20% conversion rate mark, usually for most of the people that I've seen.
Awesome. That's great to know. At least everybody can be on the lookout for that. But let's also kind of talk about margins. I know that you won't run an offer unless it's clear 50% net margin. I guess like why is that your role, and how do you kind of convince friends to stop over discounting? Because I do notice that people always think that PPU means you should discount. I know that there are also other brands that are like a big no discount because they just don't discount at all. So like, what's a good like midpoint for everybody?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way, again, it's all based off of the same priority, is that we're trying to make as much profit as possible. And it just so happens that we also work with people on a profit split. So, in it kind of like, it's beneficial to us to maximize their profit. So we operate it that way. But again, like the consensus is that this is a profit engine. So the goal is like, okay, we want a margin to be as high as possible. I would rather, again, based off of the numbers that we did earlier with conversion rate and AOV, I would still rather on upsell two, half the people take the offer, but at double the AOV, because that'll be more profit for us, right? So that, and again, there's also the issue with like a lot of people try to play it off after they buy something that, oh, I accidentally added this. So there's like maybe a 5% refund rate of people that don't want the upsells. That will increase if you sell more, which will then at a lower margin cut your margins even lower, right? So it actually isn't beneficial. And I also think to an extent, whenever you buy something from a brand and you're offered that same product at like 90% off, it kind of devalues the brand. So like you don't want to do that to a customer, especially if you're banking on LTV. Like I think there's a objection that I always get from brands that say that, oh, post-purchase funnels are going to hurt our returning customer rate. And I'm like, why? And then it's always because the offers, they're like, oh, I don't want someone to buy my product for, 70% off in the post-purchase. And I'm like, well, just don't put it as 70% off. And then you won't have this problem. And if anything, a lot of the people we work with, especially in like the supplement niche or the clothing niche, the post-purchase offers are now things that people look forward to. So the customers want to buy more of it. And we have custom funnels for returning customers, which if you're not doing that, you should segment it. You can then have offers where you just sell them bulk. Like supplement companies should be selling a year, 6 month supply to returning customer orders, because that's the easiest way to get all of your LTV today, because it's not guaranteed that this customer is going to last your average LTV.
Yeah, I agree on that part, because I personally, as a consumer myself, when it comes to supplement stuff, I do want to get everything in like one shot if I can, with a good discount, or even like you said, if they're in bundle and things like that, they're way lesser cost than the only single product. So I do agree that we don't want them to come back with be like, hey, I would love a refund because I accidentally click on it. That is always like the worst issue. But I don't think like PDU is like one of the reasons being like that could be the issue. I think a lot of consumers have a little bit more understanding on like this is something that's pretty common right now. So I do agree on that part. So one of my favorite concept is obviously the yes letter. Like, can you kind of walk us through a little bit on how this framework kind of works in practice, and like why yes builds momentum instead of dropping off? Like, do you even have an example?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea with the whole idea of like the yes ladder is the fact that most people are doing post-purchase upsells, which is like they give an offer and that's it. And that's where I was telling you that most people's RPV and conversion rate's the highest on the first step, and then it falls off from there. The thing is that you are kind of giving someone the opportunity to say yes, which they do, and which builds more kind of rapport with the brand. But then literally after that, the next offers you're giving them are not as good as the first one they took. So if anything, your offers are not getting better, they're getting worse. So you just got someone on a high and then you just said, oh, well, this one. And they're like, oh, I don't want this anymore. They got turned off right away. Versus with the way that we build the funnels is we use yes as basically, like you said, momentum to make the next offer look even better. So like, for example, if somebody took the first upsell of like a 6 month supply of something, you can't then go upsell them a 3 month supply, but the dollar per unit price is more, because then they're gonna look at it and say, okay, well, I just got 3 bags for 30, and then now you're giving me, no, I got 6 bags for 60, and now you're giving me 3 bags for 50. It's like, why would I take that offer, right? And a lot of people don't think about it logically that this customer just said yes to this. So like I have to keep in mind that they're aware of how much they paid or what the discount was or whatever. Like you can't just give them an offer out of nowhere that they're just going to have to say yes to. So the idea is behind it is that you build a experience, like a customer experience that goes through multiple yeses that build onto each other and completes their purchase, rather than like them just saying yes to whatever just because it's an offer that's there. So I guess it's hard to explain, but that's kind of the consensus of it, is that you have to make it logical, because I don't think people take, at least my perception so far and what we've tested, I don't think people take post-purchase upsells emotionally. They're very much logical. They have to be logical from a pricing perspective, and they have to be logical from an overall like purchase perspective. Like if I bought 4 t-shirts already, upselling me 4 more is probably not going to be the best step to take. But upselling me pants or underwear or something is probably going to work better.
Now, I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts about then using AI instead of like, because you said emotionally, they're not probably not in their consumer standpoint of like how we view the post purchase upsell when we go through that. But like, as like, because we're also new to this, like, we're also trying to figure out, would AI be the best bet, you think, to use it as a tool to create our post purchase upsell funnel?
Potentially, but I think there's a lot of context that's missing for AI now, to be able to do that at the level that we're doing it, for example, because like it would have to fully understand each order, what they're buying, and then, be able to not only choose the product, but position it in the right way. So it has to know what type of person it's getting. So, if we're working with a body wash brand that sells, something that clears skin marks or something, like, for example, like to say that's potentially a brand. So that you have to understand that these are, let's say, women that have, issues with their skin that have tried multiple things and it didn't work and they're looking for the next thing. And when you're upselling them, you have to use that same language and that same understanding and context. So you can't just say, oh, buy another bottle of this for no reason, right? So I think the AI has still got a long way to go to be able to understand that logic. It has to have access to all that info, which potentially at some point, if there's a software that connects all of the ads that are running on Facebook and everywhere that are doing well, and then analyzes who they're targeting and what they're targeting and what desires they're channeling, then they can, feed that into the AI that then does the upsells, which potentially will happen at some point. But I don't think at this point anybody has that. So it's very hard to do it. It's very hard to do it, like, other than logical, like you buy pants, upsell t-shirts, or like, it's no context. It's just purely money.
Yes, I do agree on that. Just probably coming up with a bit more creativity. That it's always like a great way to look into that. And of course, like instead of looking at the conversion now, if we're changing our mindset to a bit more like the RPV or PPV, maybe that would kind of change the concept of the way they look into what they should sell and offer in PPU, post-purchase upsell. Now, I think like we kind of talk about the offer of the framing, like things like $1 a day instead of like $30. Like, what are some examples of small tweaks in positioning have led to a big lift?
Yeah. So, I mean, we always test different pricing formats is basically what that is. So we'll basically run, if against a supplement, let's say there's 30 packs. So it's like $1, like 30 packs, $30. So $1 per what's the word, per serving, right? So for example, you can run a post-purchase funnel. Let's say that's 50% off. You can either run the price as $15, but you should also test it as 50 cents per serving, and then obviously have the price after that, so they don't think they're taking this upsell for 50 cents. And also potentially doing the savings in percentage versus dollar. Again, law of large numbers, dollar, like whatever is larger. So, 20% off of $100 is $20. So that's a bad example, but let's say 20% off of $50 is $10. It's better to say 20 than say $10 off. 20% off versus $10 off, 20% always wins, right? So it's testing those different setups. You can also do, like, if you're selling bundles of products, per unit, again, similar to the per serving. If you're doing supplements, you could also try monthly pricing. So like, per month, per day, per year, different pricing structures like that. There's a lot of different ways that you can position it. And sometimes we kind of even do it where we kind of show them how much it's costing them currently instead.
Yeah.
So instead of the compare app price being like, 50 and now it's 30, it's like you're currently spending $150 a month on this without knowing this is how much this will cost you. So it's kind of like a hidden cost they didn't even know was there in the first place.
Yep, it's almost like a surprise and delight.
Yeah.
I love that. I guess like we can also kind of get into, I know I said we would save some of the question, but I would love to like answer this one just because it's within like what we're currently having a conversation with. We've got Elaine Joyce from Lab Charge actually asking, which brand do you think has the best post-purchase upsell funnel that we can kind of study? And I guess like what would that look like? Is there anyone that you can think of that would be a good example here?
I mean, it's very hard. I definitely will not say any of my brands because they don't do. Um, I honestly, I mean, we always, to be honest, anybody watching this, like, we probably went through your funnel or go through a lot of funnels all the time. We always go through and funnel hack brands, just to kind of see what they're doing. We always get new ideas from it. I can't necessarily think of one right now, exactly to name it, but I do believe that there are some out there that are doing it well. And I will say that I'm extremely shocked by some of the brands that I go through their funnels, especially big brands, and I see what they're running and just how not great it is. So I think it's I will say you could definitely try going through some brands and testing it out, but I think a lot of people are not doing it, even though you might think they're doing it properly.
Yeah, it's just probably something that can still be tweaked and looked into when it comes to creativeness and really looking into the revenue per visit, because I think like there's just a lot more strategy that they can put into rather than just like placement of funnels, like, because this is what I think about. I even think like there's a lot of like some brands that really create a ton of like say 50 over funnels, just because they sell a lot of things. I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts on that? Kind of navigating out of the script here, but I do think like I've seen that before. But what are your thoughts about brands that does that? Because they're big, right? Big with a lot of like with a lot of products and SKUs. Like, what are your recommendation on that part?
Yeah. So for brands that have a lot of SKUs or have a lot of products and stuff, the reality is that you have to lean on like dynamic elements. Now, I mean, the way that we like to do is at least build batches or categories or some sort of way to like bucket them together with some unique or like similar attribute. So if somebody sells 3 different lines of pants, they have like jeans, chinos, joggers, etc. But then they also have, for example, hoodies and dress shirts and whatever. It would probably make sense to build one for each type of customer. So, for example, let's say somebody who's buying, something that is, professional clothing. Those people go through a funnel that's only dedicated, all the copy and all the images and everything that's in there is dedicated towards that persona, and all of the purchases that come from that collection will go to that funnel. And then same thing for another collection. So it's about segmenting what makes sense. So if you do it based off of basically either the product category or the persona category to make it dynamic, so you don't have 50 funnels to juggle, you'll probably have like 5 or 3. So I think, I've seen it even in like the wildest cases with like a company that we worked with that did like stationary stuff. Like they had like, paper and like staples and stuff like that. So it was more so choosing the category of, was it for a home office or for a normal office or for, whatever, and then having funnels dynamically pulled through that. So I would say using dynamic elements in a way that makes sense so that the context actually makes sense.
That's a fair point, and I do agree on that part as well. Now you kind of build like funnels that actually convert better as they go deeper, right? I'm kind of curious as well, like how do you test for that and like make sure that the sequences is actually building momentum? Like when do we know? Because I think like every time working with you, you always seem to test like a lot more shorter time frame. It's like, oh, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even shorter just to get the results. But when you feel like the momentum is actually working, to know that, okay, we're actually moving, it's good enough to like stick with it, or like, no, I'm going to refresh a new one again.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're always continuously testing. Ideally, everything that we run, we want to test it for like 1,500 to 2,000 visits, sometimes more. That's like kind of what we look at as like a number wise. And the idea behind finding out if we're building momentum or not all comes down to, again, the metrics that I was saying. So the conversion rate should be going up and the RPV should be going up. If that's not happening going down the funnel, then we know that that's not necessarily like, we know that the momentum isn't building, because then they'd say yes to one thing and they don't say yes to anything else after that.
Okay, that's a very good point. Now, do you actually have anything to show today? Is there something, or would you want to say that mostly are in the ebook that people will have to go in to check it out?
I think there's a lot of stuff in the ebook that should be very helpful. I don't think I'm at liberty to share a lot of the stuff that we have. Otherwise I would. But as the people watching this, if they were to work with us, or the people that do work with us that could be watching this, we don't necessarily share a lot of this stuff publicly, unless I get approval first. But I didn't manage to run and get too much approval before this. But I think hopefully in the next coming, weeks and months, as we start to really ramp up who we're working with in terms of size, we'll be able to share a little bit more and teach people a little bit more about what we're doing. But right now, I don't necessarily have anything I could share visually, like a funnel or like anything like that. But you'll see.
Yeah, but we definitely got something for everyone today, which is not just the ebook. So you just have to stay tuned for slightly a little bit more. But we are almost closing out with this last question, and then we will go into the Q&A. So I guess lastly, for a brand who's just getting started and probably overwhelmed by all of this, which we pretty much get them all sometimes, and mostly all the time when they're very new to it. Like, what's the lowest lift step, like, I guess they can kind of take from today to kind of start fixing their funnels?
Yeah. So I would say for somebody who's just starting out with this, like hasn't set up anything, I would say the first thing you could do is look at the product that you're selling and see if it makes sense logically for someone to buy another one, like period, end of story, and like that specific product. And if it does, And it really depends on framing. Like, could you frame it as a gift for a friend or a family member? Could you frame it as a saving? Could you frame it as a, can it help them achieve what they're buying this for in a faster, cheaper, or better way? Or can they share it with anyone else? If that's the case, I would set your first upsell to the same exact product, give them a better deal than what they got on the front end. Nothing too crazy. Again, don't go like 60, 70% off. You could get away with like a 20, 30% discount. And that would be like your first upsell. Like that is like the easiest, money you can make, to be honest. And that would probably be, again, there's different ways you can set it up. I mean, the common elements, I don't know if we've talked about this, but the common elements that you want to have is, risk reversals, social proof, being able to very clearly kind of give someone a logical reason that they may not be thinking of why to take this. So, think of headlines and, stuff like that. And then from there, either use complementary products that make sense. Like if you're selling someone a toothbrush, you can sell them toothpaste, something that makes sense in the upsell 2, upsell 3, and then make your downsell the same thing as your upsell with a slighter, heavier discount, and you'll basically guarantee to get that to work as well. So I'd say those are like the 2 easiest things you could do right there to get your funnel at least to start making you a good amount of money.
Amazing. There you go, guys. We've got something to get you started with. And obviously, Nizar has been very kindly to share that with you. Now, it seems like we have somebody, Maria, of our marketing team has already shared. We are giving you guys a free audit. So anyone with Aftersell, Nizar will have that all for you and check your funnels as well, put in post-purchase upsell. So if you have that, you just book a call with him and he can kind of go over with you, whether it be you're in Aftersell or not, don't worry about it. You guys can still go ahead and schedule a call. Now, let's get into I guess like a question that we have from Ricky. So I'm going to show it on stage. It says, can you give an example of thank you pages and the offers being shown there? Of course, Aftersell discontinued the pop-up discount on thank you page and it tanked my client's thank you page take rate. So what are your brands doing on a thank you page now? Obviously not on the raw things portion. I do want to say that when it comes to all these little pop-ups, is actually more of the Shopify limitation. It's not something that we've taken out because we wanted to take it out. A lot of the time it's because of the script to extensionability. A lot of things are being limited. We couldn't build it out anymore. So, but yeah, I guess like Nizar, is there something that you are doing in the thank you page that could help some of these folks that are not?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. So, I mean, the thing is that a lot of people haven't yet fully explored what they can do with extensibility. Like, to be completely honest with you, we're at the point where we like extensibility more than scripts, which I don't know if that's even someone could say that, but we do. And the reality is that, I will say again, because I'm not going to expose everything we do, but I will say, and I don't have examples again because I can't share, otherwise I would share a bunch of stuff, but what you could do, and it's also in the ebook, as Alicia mentioned, is you can build elements. And I think the pop-up thing was a really good idea in the first, like in the beginning. It was very, very smart to give someone a discount. You can still give someone a discount. There's a custom code block there where you can build and this is something that we've tested actually. You can build a section with HTML, and then you can actually have a button there that can take someone to a buy button, you could put whatever URL you want in there. So in reality, whatever offer you're giving someone before, it was 20% off whatever you want and they go in and buy. But in most cases, what they're going to buy. So you can just position that offer in front of them on the thank you page, the exact same one that you were giving before, the 20% off of the product that they're going to go get. Like probably 90% of people either buy the same one, or if it's a really big brand, they're going to other collections, which if that's the case, you can just put a discount code there and let them use it on your thank you page. Like, here's a discount code if you want to make another purchase, and people will use that. But you can make a button that goes straight to a buy button, like to a checkout with that product again, and get that purchase that you were getting before. So that is like the easiest way to get back all of the, like he's saying here that like it tanked their clients' thank you page revenue. Like you can get all that back relatively quickly by building out a section like that.
Awesome. I hope that helps with the answer. I have one last one here, which is here. So this is from Vince. At one point in time, Aftersell had a feature in the post-purchase funnel where the customer could go back and shop with a discount for a limited time period. For example, for the next 20 minutes, get 20% off So this is something that Shopify, again, discontinued it. So it's not something that we, wanted to remove it completely. Again, I think that was a very useful thing. And unfortunately, we can't bring them back because of the, again, Shopify limitation. Now, Nizar, do you think that there is a workaround for this portion?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the exact same thing that the other person was asking, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that
It
one's
was the
more of the
same.
thing. This will be, I guess post. Oh, is it the same? It's also
Yeah,
post.
this is also what he's talking about. It's the exact same thing.
Okay.
One thing I don't know if I mentioned there is that you can also the same way that when you run email campaigns, you usually have a discount code already linked. So when they click on the URL, it takes them with the discount code applied. You can create a discount code, create a discount code URL, put it in the button on that custom code section that you want. And when somebody clicks it to go back to your website to shop, the code will already be applied. So then they can add whatever they want and it'll be applied as well. So that's the easiest way to get back any of the brands that were doing well with that. Although I don't agree that that's the best offer you can put. There's way better offers you can put. But if you are going with that, an easy way to do it is to do that. Now, one thing I will say is that the thank you page real estate that we're using, a lot of it strategically is being used because we know that like 70% of the traffic isn't making it through the funnel because they're paying with PayPal or whatever. So we're actually using that real estate to make our same upsell one offer on there. So anybody who comes in international or comes in with a different payment method still gets our post-purchase upsell, but on the thank you page. So that's something that you should definitely try because it's done very, very well for us.
That's amazing. And thank you so much, Nizar, for your time today. I just dropped the link for Nizar. I think the other link was a bit of a different one. So yeah, this is actually a link where Nizar is going to offer a free audit for everybody on your post-purchase funnel, which is amazing. I think that's like a 30-minute session or even like a quick one. He kind of will go through it and tell you what will be the best things to kind of include or even maybe remove to kind of change up your strategy on the funnel. And especially BFCM is coming, I think it would be a good time. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. We will be sending you a post follow-up and we will kind of share the ebook link for you to download really soon. So we're super excited. And thank you guys so much for your time today. And thank you so much, Nizar, for being here today as well.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Take care.